They come from all over India, traveling for hundreds of miles via crowded trains, lumbering buses, and overloaded lorries. The journey is hard and hazardous, marked by traffic jams, deadly roads, unpredictable weather, and a variety of other menaces.
Oh my goodness, on purpose.
Once near destination, they must often trek for miles along narrow paths that are steep, slippery, and dangerously crowded. But they trudge along, singly or in groups, lugging their loads on their heads, hands, or shoulders. The women wear color, though often of a faded kind. The men a dull, crumpled white. Some have canes for support, others merely their bare, spindly legs, while those with better means ride a pony or a dundee, or even the back of their fellow human beings. These are the pilgrims of India. Deeply religious, some more devout than others, but all intent on fulfilling a pledge they made, often silently, at some point in their life, perhaps while going through a rough patch, or maybe while rejoicing over some good fortune. The pledge to make this once-in-a-lifetime journey that will fetch the darshan of their beloved gods and goddesses in their respective abodes, the dhams. Not all follow the beaten path. Religious merit can come easier if you have deep pockets. And then there are others whose devotion is something to behold. In this part of India, deep in the central Himalayas, the dhams are the four temples sanctifying the origins of the four great rivers, the Alaknanda, the Mandakini, the Bhagirathi, and the Yamuna, all of whom will eventually merge into the body of the Ganga as it transects the plains of Hindustan on its way to the Bay of Bengal. In the summer of 2009, it so happened that four of us from IFA, Rajni, Kailash, Surekha and myself, found ourselves amongst the pilgrims on this journey of a lifetime. Rajni and Kailash had long wanted to do the Chaar Dhaam Yatra. Surekha and I, too, had great desire to be in the Himalayas, see them, feel them up close. As part of IFA project visits, we had made some forays into Uttarakhand, but the Himalayas had remained a distant wonder, with their snow peaks dulled by the valley haze beckoning from afar. So the idea of traveling up to the sources of the four great rivers was exciting, even if a bit challenging. I first approached the subject with Ravi during 2007. 2 years later, propelled by the growing concern over the threat posed to our rivers, the five of us were on our way to this journey that was to be a pilgrimage in more than one ways. For along the way, we were to come across many effects that would challenge some of our beliefs and strengthen some others.
Really have been a challenge, and not just limited to the physical challenge, but challenges at many different levels. There were physical challenges in terms of the hikes or the treks that we took to the various dhams. It was the social challenges of seeing a variety of people struggling with the track. There were some moral challenges where, it brings home how do you really make things more equitable. Because I think the common thread throughout the 11 days for me was all the little boys and girls that I ran into, who had their nose running and, not particularly perhaps well fed, at least they didn't fed. And I also had some spiritual challenges in the sense that when I saw some of the treatment up at the temples, that was a minor turnoff. But there are questions that need to be answered. At least that's how I feel.
I think for Kedarnath, I really feel we need to write or do something about it, that they can do something better for all the people who come with so much Shraddha and it's so well. I just love the spirit of all these people, the young boys who were running the horses or doing. The spirit was so high, it didn't feel that they are starving or anything, but we know they are barely making their ends meet. It gives you something to think about.
Jai Mata Di.
I also learnt another thing about how much we contribute to the degradation even when we are here. The amount of trash and plastics and other packages that we generated. So it's a lesson for the future that next time we come up here, we'll bring our garbage bags with us and take all the trash back to Dehradun.
Or try to create less undegradable trash for sure.
Yeah, it wasn't only on the tracks that we saw a lot of garbage. Even when we visited the temple yesterday, on both sides of the street, they were packaging. It was no different from what we see in the US. I mean, in fact, because it was that sanitation strike, so it had accumulated for 3-4 days. But besides that, or regardless of that, the packaging was all, unnecessary packaging, which like 10 years ago, there wasn't any of that in India. So we are really kind of following the West almost blindly.
Blindly and not following everything.
Yeah.
For example, it was written that cleanliness is godliness.
Yeah.
But, we have
But we saw little evidence of it.
everything.
I don't see why some unique packaging cannot be developed, which is totally Indian. And, I think it can be. It's just a matter of people putting their
Minds to it.
minds to it.
And reach out to.
The trip dovetailed into some of the experience of the previous visits to Uttarakhand. Unlike much other travel, what makes these pilgrimages special is the travelers themselves. They could have come from thousands of miles apart, across multiple boundaries of language, custom, caste, or region. But what binds them is their faith and a commonality of purpose. Most carry on with enthusiasm and a spirit of camaraderie, striking up friendships, singing and chanting as they move on. But unlike typical travelers, they seem much more focused on the goal rather than the journey. And once near their destination, as they crowd into the confined spaces of these hallowed spots, jostling for the fleeting glimpse of the deity, cajoled and pushed forward, sometimes rudely, even cruelly, they seem almost oblivious to the sublimity of their surroundings, unaware, perhaps, of the fact that they are merely affirming the wisdom of an ancient tradition that sees waters, sacred waters, as the most enduring manifestation of divinity. For all around them is a truly divine presence. One can feel it in the grandeur of the towering snow-capped peaks, in the gaiety of the countless springs and waterfalls, and in the soft loveliness of the velvety meadows. And ultimately, it's in the music of the youthful rivers as they tumble hurriedly down the slopes and roar through the cavernous gorges.
It's been a while I've been thinking about Chaar Dhaam, that we need to do it. Just feel so blessed that all of us were able to do it. The beauty is just unbelievable. Walking by Mandakini to Kedarnath and in Gangotri, I just love the way it waited. You could walk around anywhere and see all the beauty, see Bhagirathi, and it was just wonderful.
I never experienced before this thing, nature's grandeur in this place. I saw the nature's grandeur from close vicinity. Never felt connected, felt part of it. It was an overwhelming experience. In a way, felt that I am or we are such minuscule part of it. Developed a lot of respect for the nature, which I always had, but I experienced it within myself. I'd like to come back and experience it again for a longer length of time, hopefully, and discover much more than I've discovered this time. Got far more than what I thought, I will find in this. And I was very happy and satisfied.
But the divinity of this landscape lies not merely in its ethereal beauty, but in the fact that this is also the essence of life, in ways that few quite grasp. The very existence of that vast swath of humanity spread across the subcontinent depends on this landscape that is at once forbidding and life-giving. For it's these Himalayas, from the Indus in the west to the Brahmaputra in the east, that account for 66% of the total freshwater wealth of India. Unfortunately, in the 21st century, we can no more look at this landscape with awe and reverence. Our admiration is mixed with an alarm and apprehension, since neither the landscape nor its life-giving powers can any more be taken for granted. The fact is that these rivers, the bases of the civilization that over 1 billion people call theirs, are literally dying. And there's a very real danger that unless there is a major course correction, that very civilization that has withstood countless invasions, calamities, and dangers from external forces may surrender itself to its own folly. The dying of these and other rivers is at the center of the rapidly escalating worldwide water crisis. 1/6 of the world's population, that is 1.1 billion people, does not have access to safe drinking water, a shocking number that is expected to rise to 2/3 by the year 2025. The water scarcity affects the poor disproportionately. In India, twice as many people are dying from diarrheal diseases as from HIV/AIDS. In West Bengal, there is natural arsenic that is coming out in drinking water due to the intensive water mining. This is a cause of severe, disabling illnesses, as is the presence of fluoride in many other areas, such as Orissa. Water diseases are estimated to cost the Indian economy 73 million working days every year. We learn in school as to how the water that falls from the heavens flows down to the ocean, only to return via the next season's clouds. However, few realize that this is true only for the totality of water. For even though 2/3 of the Earth's surface is water, the part that is basis of human life is the mere 1% that exists as fresh water in our lakes, rivers, and aquifers. And the hydrologic cycle that maintains the integrity of this water is very different. First of all, it depends on a decent, steady rainfall that itself depends on a green belt of trees and vegetation all along the rivers. It also depends on the availability of soil to absorb the rainwater and the ability of rivers to carry it along. All these factors are coming up short, even as we pump massive quantities of water. In a sense, this water has been mined much like we mine gold or oil, and just like them, is simply running out. In India, this downward spiral of water started with the so-called Green Revolution, with its emphasis on hybrid varieties, monoculture, double, triple seasoning, and the use of chemical fertilizers, all requiring a lot of water. Then came the so-called growth revolution of the late 20th century, with its profit-driven, urbanocentric development. The urban migration, resultant burgeoning population of cities such as Delhi, raised the need for water to crisis proportion. With the urban public clamoring for water, the officialdom, politicians, the industry, the scientific community came under tremendous pressure. Unfortunately, in their response, they set aside all concern for the long-term consequences of their actions. Actions that pitted the livelihood of rural communities against the needs of the city dwellers, the lifeblood of the majority against the conveniences of a minority. For what they did and continue to do is simply take water from wherever it is readily available, away from where it gets replenished and recycled, to where it is lost out of the hydrologic cycle. One of the means to get water was the drilling of bore wells. As of now, India has 23 million of them. Simultaneous to this massive water mining, the recharge was decimated by the increasing paving of land as a result of urban growth. This led to enormous depletion of underground aquifers. As a result, the water level at places in the Gangetic Plains has dropped to the level of the Thar Desert. Here, for example, in the floodplains of Yamuna around Delhi, water bodies such as this pond are basically drying up. Now, in nature, a water body, a pond for example, exists as a reservoir that constantly draws water from the surrounding land, since the water table is always higher than the bottom of the pond. So, as water is removed from the pond, more moves in from the surrounding land, and enough always remains in the pond. However, as surrounding land, having been paved over, can no longer be charged with rainwater, its water level falls so low that the situation is reversed. As the rains fill the pond, the water moves out in surrounding land, and pretty soon the pond goes dry. Now, typical of the official response in our times, the government has set in motion a scheme under which they're paving and putting concrete boundaries around the leftover ponds, totally counter to all that is known about the water science. At the same time, the lust for land is so severe that they have no compunction in paving over such water bodies. This one, for example, is to be paved over for a depot to house old DTC buses. The rivers are the second source of ready water, and as the nearby rivers have become increasingly dry or polluted due to the large-scale dumping of sewage, the authorities have reached out farther and farther via pipes and canals. This is Kosi, a spring-fed river that supports life in a long stretch of the Kumaon region, providing water for homes as well as for fields and countless villages. It also provides water to the town of Almora. The flow of water through this river is estimated to be as little as 1/10 of what it was a mere 10 years ago.
तो 2003 में ऐसा हुआ कि कोसी नदी में पानी बहुत कम हो गया और इस नदी का पानी अल्मोड़ा जिला जो पूरा वहाँ बाजार है वो भी इसी पानी पर निर्भर है। जब एक पंप लगाया गया यहाँ से, जब इसकी जनसंख्या कम थी अल्मोड़े ज़िले में, तो उससे पूरा होता था। फिर दूसरा पंप लगाया क्योंकि जनसंख्या बढ़ गई तो वो पंप भी पूरा नहीं हुआ। 2003 इतनी सूख गई कि पंप का स्तर ऊपर हो गया और पानी नीचे रह गया। तो डीएम साहब के द्वारा ऑर्डर हो गया, इस घाटी में पुलिस लग गई कि अब ये जो कोसी नदी में जहाँ जहाँ खेती में नहर डाले हैं ये पाइपलाइन है या पानी ले जा रहे हैं या उसको सिंचित कर रहे हैं, तो ये नहीं होगा। इसलिए नहीं होगा कि अल्मोड़े में पंप में पानी नहीं आ रहा है, तो अल्मोड़े को तो बचाना है और गांव को क्या बचाना है। गांव के लोग तो कीड़े मकोड़े हैं, तो वो तो कैसे भी जी लेंगे।
Thus, while the taps in Almora are running, the fields along this long stretch are deprived of water, as are the villagers that tend to them. Now, it isn't that such towns and cities always needed water from the rivers. Water harvesting structures have been an integral part of the culture and economy of these mountain communities for centuries. Their main strength lay in their sustainability.
पत्थर पहाड़ में दरारें हैं, दरार के थ्रू पानी आ रहा है और दरार के थ्रू ही वो पानी, क्योंकि उसमें थोड़ा सा प्रेशर है, वो थोड़ा ऊपर भी आ जाता है जब इस तरह का एक छोटा सा कुआं सा बनता है। अंग्रेजी में हम इसको स्टेप वेल कहते हैं।
पहले अल्मोड़े ज़िले में 360 नौले थे। धीरे धीरे जब नल के द्वारा पानी घर घर गया तो नौलों की देखभाल नहीं हुई और नौले खत्म हो गए।
कब्जा हो गया, नगर पालिका में चला गया, मिट्टी डाला, इधर डाला,
बंद कर दिए।
बंद हो ही गया बंद। और जो ये जिनकी है अभी यहाँ पे ये थोड़ा बहुत ये हम लोग हैं, ये पड़ोस वाले, जितना हमसे होता है खरीद लेते हैं इसका।
Then there are the dams. These dams, called modern-day temples by Jawaharlal Nehru, are emblematic, if not at the root of this crisis. In theory, the dams serve the dual purpose of providing electricity as well as captive water that could be channeled via canals for water-intensive agriculture as well as, of course, for human consumption. However, few people realize the scale of disruption and destruction that a huge dam creates.
This is the powerhouse. This white building you see is the powerhouse of the Maneri Bhali Phase 2. Now, way up on the top, there you can see a part of the hill has been scraped and then उसके नीचे वहाँ एक टनल है अंदर जाने के लिए। और ये पानी जो आ रहा है ये डैम का ही वो टनल का ही पानी है, दैट मीट्स द रिवर।
टनल के अंदर से तो उसी एरिया तक ज़्यादा हो गया है। अगर लैंडस्लाइड अपना होता तो पूरी जगह पूरे गांव में होता, लेकिन उसी एरिया पे होगा जहाँ से अंदर पानी आ रहा है।
अच्छा।
तो ये पूरा धंस के यहाँ पे बनाया ना लामबगढ़ से और यहाँ तक का जो बनाया है, तो उसमें मतलब इस पहाड़ के अंदर से नदी को लाई है, वहाँ से यहाँ
एक टनल है उस लेवल पर और वहाँ से अंदर पहाड़ के अंदर से पानी गिरा रहे हैं इस पावर हाउस तक। ठीक,
अंदर ही अंदर आ रहा है।
अंदर ही अंदर आ रहा है। उसकी वजह से ये पहाड़ जो है ये डिस्टेबलाइज हुआ। यहाँ पर ज़मीन खिसकी
अच्छा
और करीब 20 फुट खिसकी है कई जगह पर। ये जो टावर आप देख रहे हो आज तो खड़े हैं, ये भी डैमेज हो गए थे। फिर नीचे ये सारा स्लाइड देख रहे हैं आप, जो पत्थर और डाने आपको दिखाई दे रही हैं, वो सारे उस स्लाइड के कारण हुआ है। बीच में जो घर और खेत हैं वो सब हैं, और इनके लोग फिर पित हुए तो इनको वो टिन शेड वहाँ पे दिखाई दे रहे हैं उस तरफ। इनको कहा कि आप उन टिन शेड्स में जाके रहिए।
तो गांव तो पूरा 24-25 परिवार रहते थे यहाँ पे, वो सारे लोग टूट गए, मतलब उनका घर तो पूरा बर्बाद हो गया। तो अभी ऊपर का जो गांव है वहाँ भी हो रहा है, वहाँ भी मतलब धीरे धीरे वो खिसक रहा है, जो ऊपर सामने गांव दिख रहा है
जो
ऊपर वाला।
Even under the best of circumstances, the science justifying the cost-benefit ratio of the mega dams remains controversial. As a matter of practice, though, even such science is often heavily tainted by the enormous sums of money to be made by all concerned. In fact, there is enough money to buy all the parties, some by direct bribes, others by electoral payoffs, and the public via a propaganda that promises a better economy and jobs, something that will sell anything. So sad being the state of these impoverished communities. Finally, even the limited thought that is put into justifying the dams becomes meaningless when we recognize that once the project gets going, all the checks and promises are thrown out the window, the only goal being to make as much money as possible. Thus, while the water from Tehri Dam powers the air conditioners and the water slides to cool the heat-stressed concrete jungles of Delhi, the local residents are being deprived of their livelihood, their fields crumbling to erosion, their crops withering under the dual calamities of climate change and lack of water, and dwindling return on their produce.
And the one thing that really is going to stay with me forever, and let's see what I can do about it, the fact that these rivers are literally dying with all the dams that are being built. But you know, the thing that is staggering is it is not just one dam, 2 dams, 3 dams, 4 dams. I think we're talking about 250 dams in this very fragile environment.
This mining of water, whether for hydropower or for quenching the thirst of metros, has other consequences. There's progressive loss of vegetation in the river valleys. A lot of it dates from the colonial times when the forests were decimated to provide timber for the ships and railroads of the British Empire. But our current practices have been hardly less damaging. Loss of green cover is a major cause of local warming that is a part of climate change, such as the melting of glaciers.
अब हम लोग जब होश हवास में आए तो मैं हमारे जो यहाँ के मृतक शरीर का हड्डियाँ जो है सतोबंद को ले जाते थे पहले। यहाँ से 19 किलोमीटर है। अच्छा, तो यहाँ से लक्ष्मीवन से आगे से ग्लेशियर और ग्लेशियर हम चलते थे, ग्लेशियर से ही नीचे लौटते थे। तो स्वर्गारायण और ये विष्णु लोक जाने के लिए तो असंभव बात था, बड़े बड़े ग्लेशियर थे। आज विष्णु लोक तक स्वर्गारायण तो अलग रहा, स्वर्गारायण से 2.5 किलोमीटर विष्णु लोक है, वहाँ तक भी ग्लेशियर नहीं है। है ही नहीं, ग्लेशियर खत्म हो। आज जो है अकाल का हो रहा है। एक तो ज्यादा बरकने से भी अकाल हो रहा है और एक नहीं बरकने से भी अकाल हो रहा है। नहीं बरकने से सूखाग्रस्त हो रहा है भूमि और ज्यादा बरकने से सारा भूमि रगड़ बगड़ कर दे रहा है, बर्बाद हो रहा है।
The overall flow in the rivers, notwithstanding the dams, is declining and is likely to continue that.
If the present trends hold out, there will be hardly any water in the rivers to begin with.
Right.
I mean, we have seen this year the flows in the river are so low, the natural flow is so low. And again, the monsoon is late, there was no snow this winter to speak of. So perhaps we need to pay attention to the larger issues of global warming and how we all contribute to it. And the sooner we change our own lifestyles, the better.
Also, I think having seen these dams and the perspective that we got, truly further motivates me that we need to spread this around to, and reach out to as many people as possible so that they get also the truth of the impact also, and join in some effort towards preserving our rivers.
People have needs and they must be met. But the question is how and at what cost. Ultimately, we have to make choices. As Gandhiji famously said, there is enough in this world for everyone's need, but not enough for a single person's greed. It's not simply preserving the beauty and sanctity of these mountains that is at stake. In the sweltering furnaces of our city, no one can deny that more electricity and water are needed for life to go on. And if this ethereal beauty is to be sacrificed, so be it. One can argue. But it is more than that. The very life of a huge chunk of humanity is at stake. One can't buy someone's comfort at the cost of other people's lives. That is simply not acceptable. We have to look for alternative ways of doing things. And alternatives are available. Alternatives that can provide us sufficient electricity and sufficient water for people and crops. But it can't be business as usual. Conservation, source protection, and reclaiming watersheds have to be the cornerstone of a sane water policy for the future. We need a broad public dialogue that assumes that we are in this together. Well, those in the periphery have to recognize that cities are simply not going to go away. Those in the cities need to understand that there are costs to their lifestyle that are now being borne by others. They must be willing to pay the true price for their convenience and comfort. In a small way, we at IFA have been supporting several efforts along these lines. 5 years ago, IFA helped People's Science Institute in Dehradun to set up a Himalayan Jal Sanskriti Fellowship program that helped restore many indigenous water harvesting structures in the Ufrekhal region of Kumaon. The same was repeated in the city of Almora. This program has now been picked up by other organizations. IFA Financing has led a grassroots effort to save the floodplains of Jamuna by organizing villagers to resist paving over of their water bodies.
को संरक्षण किया जाए क्योंकि तालाब हमारी संस्कृति का हिस्सा है। आज दिल्ली में जगह-जगह पानी के बारे में लोग तरस रहे हैं। उसका कारण यही है कि हमें हमारे पूर्वजों की दी संस्कृति को हमने तिरस्कार कर दिया है। हमारे पूर्वजों ने तालाबों के किनारे सारी संस्कृति बसाई थी, मंदिर बसाए थे। कि इस सब के लिए आज हम इकट्ठे हुए हैं कि हमारे इस तालाबों को 4 तालाब हैं यहाँ वाटर बॉडीज हैं जो कि कानूनन संरक्षण है, उसके बावजूद सरकार यहाँ डीटीसी डिपो बनाए, जबकि गैर कानूनी काम है, डीटीसी डिपो बना ही नहीं सकती। तो उसके बावजूद सरकार ये करी थी और यहाँ के लोगों ने मिलकर जो इसको रोका है, लगभग रुक ही गया है जब तक हमें खबर है, क्योंकि उसके बाद ये नहीं आए। इन्हें 28 मई को आना था, अब तक नहीं आए हैं। तो हमें ये है कि अब ये नहीं आएंगे और आ भी गए तो मेरे ख्याल हम सब तैयार हैं कि अब ये नहीं होने देंगे कि जमीन हाथ में उनके हाथ चली जाए।
In the Kosi Basin, the IFA fellows have focused on organizing villagers to preserve the forests, which are crucial to maintaining the water in these rivers.
तो हमको क्या करना है आप बताइए। तो उनको बताया कि जब अगर देखो अभी जब कोसी नदी में पुलिस लग गई है तो ऐसी स्थिति रहेगी तो क्या आप लोगों ने कुछ ऐसी व्यवस्था की है कि जिस दिन ये कोसी नदी का पानी सूख जाएगा तो हम भाबर चले जाएंगे, यहाँ से पलायन हो जाएंगे? तो इतनी अच्छी हमारी खेती है यहाँ पर, और यहाँ आलू होता है, धान होता है, गेहूँ होता है, सरसों होता है, और इतनी अच्छी सब्जियाँ होती हैं, हम आत्मनिर्भर हैं। तो जिस दिन पानी सूख जाएगा तो पीने के लिए भी पानी नहीं रहेगा, कहाँ तो खेती। तो उस दिन की क्या व्यवस्था है, आप लोगों ने क्या सोचा है? जो तुम अंधाधुंध इस जंगल को ऐसे काट रहे हो, और जितनी ज़रूरत है उतना तो लाना ही है, पर तुम्हारे 5-5 सालों तक लकड़ी के हैं, पिरूल के हैं, और जो बांज लाते हो गाय खाती नहीं है, खाली पेड़ उजाड़ के रख देते हो। तो इस प्रकार की जो व्यवस्था है, अगर इसी प्रकार की व्यवस्था हम जिएंगे तो हम तो कहीं के नहीं रहेंगे। कल को यहाँ पानी भी नहीं रहेगा और हमारी ज़मीन भी नहीं होगी, और हमारे पास तो उस समय उन महिलाओं के अंदर आया, उन्होंने कहा नहीं हमारी तो कोई व्यवस्था नहीं है।
ऐसा है, हमें पहले तो ये जानकारी थी नहीं। जब से ये महिला मंगल दल का संगठन हमारी राधा बहन जी ने, बसंती बहन जी ने, नीमा बहन जी ने हमें गांव में आके कहा कि महिला मंगल दल का संगठन बनाओ, हमने जंगल की रक्षा की, कच्ची लकड़ी बंद की, बांस बुरूज और हमने उसको बचा दिया, और महिलाओं से कहा तो जहाँ जो काटे उनको पकड़ो। अवैध लकड़ी भी हमने पकड़ी, 2-4 बांसे भी बाहर के लोग काट रहे थे जंगल में, वो भी हमने पकड़ा। कोसी नदी के लिए हमने गार की नदी को बचाकर जंगल में हमारी महिला आग बुझाने के लिए यहाँ से किलोमीटर कितने गए, वहाँ जंगल में आग बुझाई। एक महिला हमारी ऐसे मर भी बच गई, महिला मंगल दल के हमें दुख भी है इसका। वो नल भी हमने तोड़ा, महिला सब गए, यहाँ से बाहर जा रहा था पानी। इस
जय जगत, हेलो
पूरा ही गांव है वैसे संगठन में मीटिंग होगी तो आप कभी किसी को टाइम नहीं है, कोई बहू है, किसी के सास वाले है तो पूरा गांव जब कहीं जाते
ये
हैं
दीदी इसका देखो, ये उठो उठो ये कमर में रस्सी है और ये दराती है, ये अब ये तैयारी है, मतलब अभी भी ऐसे नहीं रहे, मीटिंग में भी आई है तो यहीं से खेतों में कहीं जाएंगे।
हमारे संगठन में है तुम्हारे।
Thus, some of these efforts have been highly successful, for which these women and their leaders deserve all the credit. But unfortunately, it's far from clear as to whether they will reap any benefit from these heroic efforts.
कुछ हमें यह है, आग बुझा के महिलाओं ने कहा इतना जिनका हमारा खर्चा हुआ, हमें कहीं से कोई फायदा नहीं है, और जंगल में झाड़ी काटी, रास्ता साफ किए, झाड़ू लगाए, सब महिला काम करते थे। जब समय से कुछ उन्हें फायदा कहीं से नहीं आता, थोड़ी थोड़ी काम कम होने लग गया ये। फिर भी हमने कहा कि ठीक है, काम को आगे ही बढ़ाओ, पीछे मत हटो, आगे बढ़ो।
Thus, it becomes quite evident that such battles can't be fought in a vacuum. We have to engage in a comprehensive struggle that focuses on preserving livelihoods as well as these resources. Community control of natural resources has to be a central part of any such plan.
मैं तो यही चाहती हूँ कि जो जल जंगल जमीन का मुद्दा है, वो जो ये रक्षा ही कर रही हैं, सुरक्षा ही कर रही हैं, अपना कितना कष्ट करके, कितना परेशानी झेल कर, पर मैं ये सोचती हूँ कि इनको अधिकार भी मिलना चाहिए, उसका उनका जमीन का अधिकार हो, उनका पानी का अधिकार हो, उनका जंगल का अधिकार हो।
With this in mind, People Science Institute has initiated a statewide Save the River campaign in Uttarakhand. The goal is to mobilize public opinion in favor of a policy of sustainable development of energy and water resources that, amongst other things, ensures full involvement of affected communities. IFA has committed to helping start this movement. It is expected that in an year or so, the movement will become self-sufficient. If successful, this would become a model for similar actions on other fronts that are bound to develop as we start facing the aftermath of the last century's ill-conceived practices. No one owns water. It belongs to the earth. to all the species and to future generations. In order to save water for all, we must understand the hydrologic cycle that governs the flow of fresh water, a cycle that depends on water retentive landscape and the health of our ecosystems. Our ancestors understood it well and had the foresight to lay out the do's and don'ts that are as relevant today as ever.
हमारे एक बड़े पुराने ऋषि थे, कश्यप नाम के, और कश्यप ऋषि जो थे उन्होंने 5 सिद्धांत बताए कि नदियों की सुरक्षा कैसे की जाए। सबसे पहले उन्होंने कहा कि नदी का जो उद्गम स्थल है, ये स्थल बहुत पवित्र स्थान है और इसके लिए वहाँ पर एक मंदिर बनना चाहिए। उनकी मंशा ये थी कि मंदिर में एक पुजारी होगा, तो पुजारी का धर्म ये था कि सबसे उद्गम स्थल पर उद्गम स्थल की रक्षा करने का काम पुजारी का था। अब वहां से जब नदी चलकर आती है, कश्यप ने कहा कि उसके रास्ते में कम अवरोध हो, यानी बड़े बड़े बांध ना बने, कम से कम जैसे हम अपने पुल के लिए कुछ पत्थर बिछा देते हैं नदी के तल में, वो ठीक है। तीसरा सिद्धांत जो था, जो आपके लिए बहुत सही है, उनका ये कहना था कि जंगल और पानी का बड़ा घना रिश्ता होता है। जैसे ये दो उंगलियां है ना, बड़ा घना रिश्ता होता है। जंगल के कारण नदी में पानी आता है, पानी के कारण जंगल पर, और इसलिए उन्होंने ये बताया कि हर जंगल में हम लोगों को प्रयास करना चाहिए कि वहाँ पर पानी इकट्ठा करें जंगल के अंदर। तो जंगल के अंदर गड्ढे बनाएं, चाल खाल बनाएं, छोटे छोटे तालाब बनाएं, ताकि धीरे धीरे वो पानी जो इकट्ठा किया है बारिश का, वो रिझ कर नदी में आता रहे। अच्छा, एक चौथी बात भी उन्होंने कही। उस ऋषि ने कहा कि जरूरत से ज्यादा पानी नहीं लेना चाहिए नदी में से, कम से कम पानी लीजिए, जितनी आपकी जरूरत है लीजिए। लेकिन जैसे आजकल अब ये होटल बन गया, यहाँ पर होटल वाले ने टैंकर भेज दिया, कहा जी वहाँ से पानी ले आओ। अब होटल में जो लोग आते हैं वो तो बहुत पानी वेस्ट करते हैं। समाज के हर व्यक्ति को अपनी क्षमता के अनुसार नदी के प्रति कुछ योगदान करना चाहिए। अगर कोई धनी व्यक्ति है तो वो कुछ धन दे दे, अगर कोई श्रमिक है तो वो अपना कोई श्रम दे दे, अगर कोई तकनीकी है तो वो अपना तकनीक दे दे, लेकिन और पुजारी है तो पूजा भी करे, लेकिन सबको नदी के लिए कुछ योगदान देना चाहिए।
We must listen to the ancient wisdom, if not that of our own times. If we don't, the destruction of water will be the destruction of self, of our species, and of other species as well. The time, in fact, may be running out.